2 weeks ago, I finished my series on writing and rating every New York City subway line. At the bottom were the R, the W, and the Z. While the R can be fixed, the Z can't. That is because skip stop is a joke. The idea stemmed from trying to give express service while utilizing the bare minimum amount of infrastructure. However, it is rare for one to truly save time on their trip. The J and Z combined run every 5 minutes, which means a skip stop station will see 10-minute frequencies. Skip stop, according to a 1988 study, saves 5.5 minutes from Jamaica Center. This means that the MTA lengthened skip stop station wait times by 5 minutes to save 5.5 minutes. But remember, that is from Jamaica Center, which means the time saved is already less. That is some sick profit, am I right? So the logical conclusion is to remove the Z train, right? Well, there was one good reason to keep the Z, which was faster commute times into downtown Manhattan than QBL. When QBL is operating at max capacity, diverting people to take the J and Z is a good idea. And the MTA could get away saying that skip stop helped more people than it hurt, as back then the ridership was clustered around Jamaica, Williamsburg, and the all-stop stations. But we don't live in that world anymore. Ridership on Jamaica is more evenly dispersed, and this trend will continue as the city looks into upzoning East New York and beyond. And finally, it takes a normal J train 54 minutes to get to Broad Street, while an E train takes 55 minutes. So the J is now slightly faster than the E, which means the old reasoning of decongesting QBL is gone. Therefore, ending skip stop would be a great step for J train riders. But a 1-minute save against the E isn't something to brag about. Therefore, we need ways to speed up J train trips. From eliminating sharp curves, to grade separation, to station consolidation, here are my thoughts on speeding up the oldest elevated line in North America. The BMT Jamaica line is infamous for being slow. A major contributing factor are the sharp curves. So we'll fix them. And let's start with the easier fixes, before moving up to the more difficult ones. One of the easy fixes is near Marcy Avenue. Here, trains have to make an S-curve from Marcy Avenue onto the Williamsburg Bridge, which slows or stops trains. Then there is the merge before Marcy Avenue. If a J or M train arrives before Marcy Avenue at the same time, one of them is delayed for the other to cross. Finally, there's the Marcy Avenue stop itself. As Van Schuckenragen and Uday Schultz pointed out, that is 3 potential places for a train to stop. So they proposed a new replacement station directly on top of the Williamsburg Bridge Plaza with 3 tracks and 2 island platforms. This helps straighten the S-curve near Marcy. And if J and M trains arrive at the same time, there would be only 1 stop at the new station, as opposed to 3. Since we're building on top of an MTA bus terminal, there is no real estate to bulldoze, which makes this fix relatively easy to pull off. The second relatively easy fix is the curve near the East New York Yard. The speeds around Broadway Junction aren't too good. To fix it, we can straighten the curve at Alabama Avenue. Since this curve is located at a wide intersection, there is space to build a replacement viaduct. It will also present an opportunity to simplify this web of tracks and allow more light on the streets below. Now that we got the easy fixes, let's talk about the hard fixes. The first one is at Essex Street. When trains enter or exit the Williamsburg Bridge, there is a sharp curve that limits speeds into the station. Fixing it will allow trains to speed in and out of the station. However, it won't be easy, as you'll be working underground. While there is an abandoned trolley terminal that can provide space for construction, you have to dig out other parts, as that trolley terminal does not extend the entire length of the platform. But the expansion is no less necessary, as not only would the station be larger to handle the increased traffic thanks to redevelopment in the area, it would also allow platforms to be extended to 10 cars. This means future-proofing for potential 10-car M trains. The most difficult fix is a Crescent Street S-curve. This curve is the second sharpest curve in the entire system, and limits train speeds to around 10 miles per hour. But fixing this curve will necessitate demolishing 36 properties, plus modifying a school. While this is a steep price to pay, it will still be worth it. It currently takes the J train around 3 minutes to go from Crescent Street to Cypress Hills. But if we make the curves a standard I and D curve, it would take under a minute to clear that distance, or a time save of 2 minutes. That means cutting the total runtime by 4%, which is good. And gentler curves means less money spent on maintaining the trains, which means the MTA will make back their money in no time. as they would spend less money repairing and replacing the wheels. To overcome the politics of straightening this curve, the entire section between Crescent Street and Cypress Hills will be rebuilt as a concrete viaduct, with continuously welded rail installed to reduce noise. Then add a noise barrier to block as much noise from the trains turning. If the community feels like they're going to gain something from this project, aka less noise and a better looking elevated structure, then they're more likely to support it. This project can also allow the MTA to show that elevated technology has come a long way, and that Ls can be nice and quiet. Now that J trains can operate much faster, let's talk about delays and capacity. I have gotten a few questions asking me whether M train interlining is worth it. My response is yes. First of all, the Williamsburg Bridge can only handle a certain amount of trains. My previous estimate says 24 trains per hour, but past times indicate that the bridge can run 27 trains per hour, so we'll use that. But even so, this means the bridge is operating at reduced capacity, so give the people what they want. And second, Essex Street has a third track, which means the issue is mitigated heavily. If trains have to wait for another train to cross, they can wait it out on that third track, which won't impact the other trains as much. So, for the time being, the Orange M is worth it. But that doesn't mean it is all sunshine and rainbows. At Myrtle Broadway, there is an at-grade merge. This at-grade merge is the true destroyer of capacity. Without this merge, M trains can run up to 12 or 13 trains per hour, but can only run 8 to 9 trains per hour. This means fixing this merge can net a 50% capacity increase on the M. To fix it, the Metropolitan Avenue track will branch off at Lewis Avenue. It will travel south, then turn east at Myrtle Avenue, and arrive at the upper level. After that, the service will continue as is. With this change, Jamaica Line service can be fully grade separated, and M trains can be bumped to 12 trains per hour, though that involves some fumigation reform at Forest Hills, but that requires no infrastructure. Yes, it won't be easy, as the upper level can only handle lighter wooden cars. This means that the entire structure will need to be re-engineered. And also, a new elevated structure won't be popular. But again, with the Crescent Street example, if commuters feel like they're going to gain something, aka more frequent and reliable service, then they will support it. Most people are reasonable people, and listening to the vocal minority is the antithesis of democracy. With these two changes, J trains can operate much faster. How much faster? Well, it takes the J train 15 minutes to go from Broad Street to Marcy Avenue. Since that section won't see that much change, we'll use that figure. Though we are straightening two sections of track here, so subtract a minute. From Marcy Avenue to Jamaica Center, it is 9.8 miles. Assuming speeds of 30 miles per hour, that is around 20 minutes. The J also makes 19 intermediate stops, and with average dwell times plus acceleration being 40 seconds, that is 13 minutes. So the new runtime would be 47 minutes, a save of 7 minutes. This new J train will be 8 minutes faster than QBL, meaning it will still be worth it to take the J the entire way if someone needs to go to downtown. But we can do better. Our last project to cut run times for the J is station consolidation. Now some of you might be asking, where's the peak direction express service? I answer, while it is nice to have, with the current setup, it does more harm than good. Remember that the J shares tracks with the M, and that the Williamsburg Bridge can only handle so many trains. This means at best the local stations will see a wait time of 10 minutes during rush hour. And if that sounds familiar, that is because skip-stop stations see wait times of every 10 minutes. Not good. And as more and more people continue to use the local stations thanks to upzoning at East New York, this means peak direction express service will do more harm than good. Stop consolidation is logically the best way to cut down travel times even more. While a peak direction express saves a ton of time, don't underestimate the time that stop consolidation saves. I'll show you how. Since this is easily the most controversial part of this video, I am going to divide this into 3 categories. The first category is the non-negotiable, or the stations I think should be consolidated, no questions asked. The second category is the study, or the potential stations I think should be consolidated, but would like to see a study first. The final category is the future, or the stations I think are good candidates, but should wait a decade or two. The only one I think is non-negotiable is the Union Avenue station. This will provide a much needed in-system transfer to the G train, but for that to happen, both Hughes Street and Lorimer Street will be closed. But the impact won't be huge. The new Union Avenue station will be a 2-minute walk away from either station, and in return, a valuable connection will open up to the G train. However, keep in mind that this isn't a time save for the J train, as J trains skip this in the peak direction. It is just a way to add a new connection. Now, onto the study category. The first one on this list is Decatur Street. Located in the middle between Halsey and Chauncey Street, it would only be a 3-minute walk extra from either station. It would help with stop spacing too, as Halsey Street is a little too close to Gates Avenue, while Chauncey Street is too close to Broadway Junction. However, Halsey Street is a well-used station, so I would like to see a study on this first. The next one is Pennsylvania Avenue Station. Located in the center of Alabama Avenue and Van Siclen Avenue, it would replace the two stations. The station will be positioned so that one exit is closer to Pennsylvania Avenue for a short walk to the East New York Yard, while the other exit would be positioned at Vermont Street for a relatively short walk to Van Siclen Avenue. But a drawback to this is that yard workers would lose a direct connection to East New York, and Van Siclen Avenue riders would need to walk a bit to the replacement station. And also, I would like this to be built with side platforms, and I am not too sure if there's space for that. So, I would like to see a study on this first. The final one is at Richmond Street, replacing both Crescent Street and Norwood Avenue. When you straighten the Crescent Street curves, the wide turning radius requires Crescent Street to be shifted 400 feet to the west. That puts Crescent Street 700 feet from Norwood Avenue, which is on the same level of 14th to 18th Street on the 1. So I would like to see station consolidation here. One exit will be positioned to Euclid Avenue for a 2-minute walk to Crescent Street, while another exit will be positioned to Richmond Street for a 3-minute walk to Norwood Avenue. But again, I would like to see a study on this first, as just like the Pennsylvania Avenue station, I want this to be built with side platforms, and I am not sure if there's enough space for that. Now, let's get to the future category. The first one is Lincoln Avenue, which will replace Cypress Hills and 75th Street. When we straighten the Crescent Street S-curves, Cypress Hills would need to be shifted by 200 feet, and that again puts the station 800 feet from 75th Street. So the solution is to close both Cypress Hills and 75th Street, and it won't be painful. When there isn't construction, Cypress Hills sees the lowest ridership of any Jamaica Line station. Even so, Lincoln Avenue would have one exit at Lincoln Avenue, which would be a 3-minute walk away from Cypress Hills, while the other exit will be near Eldert's Lane for a 3-minute walk to 75th Street. At least this station will have an exit at Eldert's Lane, something that the original 75th Street Eldert's Lane station can't say. However, the reason why I put this in the future category is because Eldert's Lane is renovated, while Cypress Hills is being renovated as of recording this video. I'd rather let these two stations reach at least halfway of their lifespan before we propose any changes. The final station is at Brooklyn Manor, which will replace Woodhaven Boulevard and 104th Street. This will help give a better transfer to Queens Link, but a few factors work against this. The first one is Woodhaven Boulevard and 104th Street are renovated stations, and just like Cypress Hills and 75th Street, I would rather wait until they are halfway through their lifespan before we do anything. The next factor is that despite a huge grassroots campaign for Queens Link and against the Walmart High Line, the Walmart High Line got approved. And the final factor is that the Jamaica Line slopes up in order to pass over the Rockaway Beach branch, which means building a station here may violate ADA guidelines. So I would rather wait 30 years and revisit this station proposal. But even if it is unfeasible, it isn't the end of the world. With station consolidation, let's recalculate our run times, with one that includes Brooklyn Manor, and the other that doesn't. Keep in mind, with better stop spacing, we can increase our speed a little, as trains can have a chance to accelerate up to top speed. So let's say speeds go from 30 to 35 miles per hour. Now, from Broad Street to Havemeyer, it will take 14 minutes. From Havemeyer to Jamaica Center, it is still around 9.8 miles. At 35 miles per hour, that is 17 minutes. With Brooklyn Manor, the J has to make 14 intermediate stops. Again, using 40 seconds per stop, that comes out to about 9 minutes. In total, that comes out to a 40-minute runtime, or a 14-minute save from the current runtime of the J. Against the E train, it is 15 minutes. Without Brooklyn Manor, add 1 minute to the total runtime, which is 41 minutes. that is still a 13-minute save from the current runtime of the J, and against the E, it is 15 minutes. So in conclusion, yes, stop consolidation is worth it. Most commuters who are affected have to walk at most 3 minutes, and in return, they will see a much more frequent train and save way more time. That, in my opinion, is a fair trade. The final, or I guess bonus piece of the puzzle is a potential one-stop extension to 168th Street. If you don't know, the BMT Jamaica line used to go elevated to 168th Street. However, that isn't the case anymore. Business owners in Jamaica wanted the L removed, and the Program for Action provided the perfect way to remove and replace that portion of the L. It was also supposed to extend the Jamaica line to as far as 190th Street on LIRR right-of-way. But because of the fiscal crisis, that project was cut back to Parsons Boulevard. And while the city did keep its word that they were going to remove and replace the elevated line, it only did so up to 160th Street. So, build a 168th Street station, right? Well, yes, but not for the reason you think. If you want to extend the J to right or wrong, I don't think it is worth it, especially if you extend the E. But capacity-wise, it might be a good idea. You see, Jamaica Center's capacity problem doesn't just exist on the E, it also exists on the J. This means the J can only run 12 trains per hour, max. While that isn't a problem, as the M interlines with the J, in the future, if the Williamsburg Bridge ever gets CBTC and can run more trains, Jamaica Center will struggle to keep up. Therefore, a one-stop extension of the J will help make that happen. This new station will be built just like Hudson Yards, so that terminating trains will never get delayed. The MTA is always known for doing the bare minimum. In this case, it is skip stop, as that saves a little bit of time against the E. Straightening sharp curves, grade separating Myrtle, and consolidating stations is much harder. Yet, those are no less necessary as the J sees more and more riders. Yes, compared to the L or the 7, the J isn't operating at max capacity. But one day, when upzoning and growth continues to march eastward, past East New York into Cypress Hills, Woodhaven, and Richmond Hill, the J needs to be moved into the 21st century. And with that, this marks the end of this video. What are your thoughts on rebuilding the Jamaica line? Let us know in the comments below. And if you like this video, consider liking and subscribing. And I'll see you in the next video.